Hello, in this video we're going to discuss how to run AddressFinder inside of RENXT. This is a little different if you have not ever run this inside of NXT versus how it would run in Database View. Inside of Database View it was a very manual process in terms of pulling the list you wanted to run, selecting the settings that you wanted, and then uploading and processing the file, and then whenever it was done you'd have to kind of import those changes. It's much more seamless and automatic inside of RENXT. Your Razor's Edge subscription should include AddressFinder running quarterly. So whenever you come into Constituents Data Health, this is where you're going to see your duplicates, your AddressFinder. If you have Deceased Finder, Phone Finder, you will see all that information inside of here. The very first time that you run AddressFinder, you are going to have to basically set it up and accept the terms. So you would come through here, you would click next, next. This is where you would, let me get back. So on the very first screen, it's going to basically tell you, hey, this is going to run quarterly. And then in order for it to run, you need to tell it who you want to include and how to handle addresses whenever people move. So it then lets you know whenever it finds a new address, it is going to mark that address as primary. It will update the valid from date, which is basically the start date in Database View of whenever the update ran. It's going to tag an info source of AddressFinder so that you know where the change came from. And then it's going to, kind of standardize how the address looks in terms of the address lines and having the standard abbreviations and things like that. The former address, it is going to mark the former address and update it to do not mail, and it will put a valid to date or stop date of whenever that ran. So this is where you will tell it which records you want to include. So do we want it to include all records whenever it runs? If not, then we can change this and create our own list of who we want this to run on if we don't want it to include all records. And then on the address type, we can either have it look at the address type from, okay, let's see, what address type do you want to use for the old address? Oh, okay. So for the old address, we want it's asking what type do we want to tag it as. So for example, if the address that was there previously was home and it finds a new address, it's going to then use the address type from the original submitted address. So if it finds a new address, it will update it to home. If you always want it to update to a specific type, then you can click that here. And any new addresses that it pulls in will come in that way. So we're going to say all address types and go to next. And then this is where you would update, this is our sandbox, so that's why it's showing BSG data. But this is where you would update all of the information from your organization and who the contact will be for the AddressFinder. And then you'll click the checkbox to note how the data is updating, and then you will click finish. Once AddressFinder runs, this is the information that will display inside of RENXT. So it's going to give you stats at the top in terms of how many addresses were submitted and run through AddressFinder. So we had almost 180,000 that it ran through. 1.3 or 1,300 addresses were updated in terms of they have now moved. 641 people are now lost where it could not find a new forwarding address. And then 74,000 were enhanced, meaning that if they were missing part of the zip code or street needed to be modified to have the correct formatting, for example, that would be included here. This is telling you the next time it's scheduled to run. You can reschedule this date. So if you're wanting to run it, and push that out beyond 10/2, you could click reschedule run, and you would be able to change the next date that it ran. You can also see the history of prior AddressFinder updates that ran, so you can kind of see how many people have we typically submitted, how many typically move every time we run it, how many are lost. So you can see it's pretty consistent in terms of they have around the same amount of people that have moved or are now considered lost in the system. And that's how to run AddressFinder. You can also click on anything that's hyperlinked. So if you're curious about who were the 1,300 people that have moved, you can click on this and it will pull out a hyperlinked list of all of the names. You can also see who are the individuals that are now lost. It will mark stop dates on all of those individuals so that they no longer have an active address, and it will update the flag so that it says they no longer have a valid address in the system, so that whenever you're using your exports and you have that checkbox checked that says exclude everyone that does not have a valid address, these 641 people would then be excluded. So it is handling those lost individuals automatically and adding and removing that has no valid address flag whenever it runs.